Hello and welcome to this special edition of Look East, live from the Waveney constituency. I'm on the seafront in Lowestoft, but of course we'll be reporting from across the region. Yesterday, this seat was Labour red. Today, it's Tory blue.
And Waveney was far from alone. This region saw a virtual Labour wipeout. This was the map yesterday. Just look at it today. A sea of blue. Now there is Labour's only hub left, that tiny little red spot in Luton. And that grey colour represents the seat of the Speaker, John Bercow. So here are the numbers. The Conservatives started with 44 seats. That's increased to 54. Labour started with 13. That has collapsed to just 2. The Lib Dems gained 1, up from 3 to 4. Tonight we'll have the results from every constituency in the East. We'll hear from winners, from losers, and we'll also hear from voters. But there's no doubt over the biggest scalp of the night, the former Home Secretary Charles Clarke losing out to the Lib Dems. Our political correspondent Andrew Sinclair was there.
After 13 years with a Labour Member of Parliament, the people of Norwich South have a new MP. No one seems surprised by this morning's result.
It's a slight protest vote, I assume. And we're not really a Conservative city, so I assume that was the only option.
People just aren't happy at the moment, are they? And, you know, they're going to say, throw the old ones away and let's start a new one.
Charles Clarke arrived at last night's count quietly confident that he would scrape through. But as the night wore on, it became clear that Labour were in trouble. Confirmation that the seat had gone to the Liberal Democrats came just before 5 o'clock.
Simon James Wright is duly elected to serve as Member of Parliament for the Norwich South constituency.
I blame my loss on the fact that we were not able to make our case in Norwich as we needed to. I don't blame it on anybody in particular. Any election is a judgment on the candidates themselves, and that's how the situation is. People decided they wanted to see a change, and that's what they're going to see.
Labour were expecting to lose seats tonight, but never this one. The fact that such a high-profile figure in the party has gone is a sign of just how bad a night it is for Labour. The Lib Dems had worked hard to take this seat. They may have done it because a third of the votes were postal ballots, cast 10 days ago when Cleggmania was at its height. But 30-year-old Simon Wright won the seat with a majority of just 310.
I knew it was going to be on a knife edge, and I've got through with a small majority. I know I've got to repay people's faith because people have put their confidence in me. I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can.
Norman Lamb, the other Norfolk Liberal Democrat, rushed from his count to congratulate the new MP. On a bad night for the Lib Dems, this was one of their most notable victories. But it was a disaster for the man who helped create New Labour and who had hoped to play a key role in rebuilding the party. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East in Norwich.
So that was the situation in Norwich South, the Liberal Democrats' 4th seat in this region. Stuart.
You know, this was supposed to be a significant seat. If the Tories won here, then they could expect to get the keys to number 10. This is how Jeremy Vine put it last night in the election special.
There are paving stones flying into Downing Street. Each one of them has a constituency on it. The seats the Conservatives need to win to get Mr Cameron to the end of the street. They need 116 extra seats for an overall majority. And here they are. And if they win them in order of difficulty, the last one is Waveney.
Well, in the event, of course, they did win Waveney, but they don't have the keys to number 10 just yet. We'll find out what happens over the next couple of days. They didn't win seats that maybe they thought they would win. Kim Riley has been looking at a night that Labour would probably rather forget.
One by one, Labour's big names were dumped by the voters. In Corby, Health Minister Phil Hope unseated by his Tory opponent.
It's been 13 years of real progress. I leave behind a legacy of which I'm personally proud, of which the Labour Party can be personally proud, and of which the Labour government has been, instrumental in making happen.
I just hope that the Conservatives can carry on the good work.
It was one of the first in the country to get caught the expensive row, you know what I mean? And that doesn't set a good precedent.
Tears and hugs of commiseration in Bedford as Patrick Hall saw his seat snatched by the Tories. Armed Forces Minister Bill Rammell lost out to the Conservatives in Harlow, and fellow Minister Angela Smith saw her 900 majority overturned at South Basildon and East Thurrock.
We always knew when the boundaries were changed and almost wiped out my entire majority and we're behind in the polls, it was going to be a tough fight.
Voters in Ipswich said time's up to Transport Minister Chris Mole.
I've been the MP here for 9 years and I'm very proud of what I've achieved, bringing things like a new university to Ipswich, a long-held aspiration of mine and the town's, and I regret not being able to serve them in Parliament anymore.
From the East Coast, you have to travel almost to the M1 to find the 2 surviving Labour seats. Kelvin Hopkins holding Luton North, Gavin Shuker seeing off a host of challengers in Luton South. But Stevenage, the seat of the retiring Minister for the East, was another Labour loss.
We've lost extremely good and experienced people, but this is a democracy and the electorate have made their choice.
Across the region, it was all too clear. The political tide had turned against Labour. Kim Riley, BBC Look East.
Well, let's talk to the new Conservative MP for Waveney, Peter Aldous. After you saw the exit polls last night, were you confident that you'd won?
I think the answer is I wasn't 100% certain, no. Looking at, we were the 116th seat, we was looking at hung Parliament territory. On a straight line basis, it looked difficult.
On the doorstep, what do you think made the difference to you here, then?
I think probably people wanted, there was a mood for a change, and also we did do a lot of homework, a lot of hard work, talking on the doorstep, and I think that did make a difference.
Have you been speaking to other Tory MPs today, and what's their reaction to the situation that you find yourselves in now?
The answer is I haven't been speaking to any MPs at all. I've been very much speaking to people locally, and there's been a lot of emails and telephone messages, really from people locally.
Can you really believe now that you're actually going to be in Parliament?
I think it's just about beginning to sink in. It's a tremendous privilege, and it's a great duty and responsibility, which I'm really looking forward to, in an area which means an awful lot to me.
Are you going to be lobby fodder, or are you going to offer something to the people locally that anybody else wouldn't?
First and foremost, it is looking after the people of Waveney, and that's why I want to do it.
And you're going to spend your time here all of the time?
As much time as possible. Obviously I've got to set up an office and organise administration so I can actually address people's concerns.
Have you spoken to the outgoing MP?
I had a few words last night with Bob at the Count, and I wished him well, and he was a very diligent, hard-working MP, and I was very pleased to have fought a decent campaign with him.
Exciting times. Do you expect to be fighting another election in a few weeks' time?
Who knows? If you listen and watch on the radio and on the television, there's an awful lot of conjecture, and I think lots got to happen before we know exactly what is going to happen in the future.
Good. Well, thank you very much for being with us here this evening. Congratulations on winning the seat. We'll be talking to somebody from the Liberal Democrats and from the Labour Party later in the programme, but for now, back to Susie.
Thanks, Stuart. And, of course, Peter Aldous is not alone.